Trade is critical to the national economy of the U.S. For example, manufacturing jobs related to trade pay 18% more than manufacturing jobs that are not. Trade plays a key role in new jobs. If a company wants to expand, it has to reach new customers because 95% of the customers are outside the United States. Trade is the lifeblood of my hometown of Houston, Texas. Over half of Houston's economy depends on trade. Houston has one of the largest ports in the world, and it is the oil and gas capital of the world. Overall, trade supports more than 1 out of 5 jobs in Texas, and Texas has been the top exporting state for 12 consecutive years. This is not just for large businesses either. 93% of Texas exporters are small and medium-sized businesses. Texas is the #1 state, and Houston, Texas is the #1 city when it comes to receiving support from EXIM. There is no question about the importance of trade. We need trade to grow. What we are looking at today is the Federal Government's role in trade. Before us today, we have 3 agencies in the Federal Government that promote trade and investment. The Export-Import Bank is the official U.S. export credit agency. It provides direct loans, loan guarantees, and export credit insurance to help finance U.S. exports of goods and services. The Overseas Private Investment Corporation, or OPIC, is the official U.S. development finance institution. OPIC seeks to promote economic growth in developing economies by providing political risk insurance, project and investment fund financing, and other services to U.S. firms investing in those countries. The U.S. Trade and Development Agency, or TDA, seeks to link U.S. businesses to export opportunities overseas that lead to economic growth in developing and middle-income countries by funding a range of pre-export activities. The question before us today is, do we need these agencies? 60 other countries have export credit agencies of their own. Supporters of reauthorizing EXIM Bank argue that if Congress allows the EXIM Bank to expire, then these 60 other countries will be happy to jump in, put our American companies at a competitive disadvantage, and take business away from the U.S. Some users of EXIM say they will go out of business without EXIM. Critics of the bank respond that subsidizing companies has no place in a free market system. But some of these same critics support government subsidies for terrorism risk insurance, flood insurance. They support the FDIC and the National Credit Union Share Insurance Fund. There is also substantial disagreement about exactly what this costs the taxpayer. Critics say due to some tricky accounting standards, taxpayers are left holding the bag while the agencies themselves argue they return a surplus to the U.S. Treasury every year. Critics argue that Congress enacted reforms during the EXIM Bank's 2012 reauthorization, but claim that these reforms were never implemented. EXIM disagrees, saying that it has completed and implemented all reforms. While trade promotion agencies are supposed to promote trade that helps the U.S., many Americans have questions about helping foreign companies that are in the U.S. economy. Do big state-owned enterprises, or SOEs, deserve taxpayer dollars on top of the money they get from their own governments? And what about American companies that are trying to compete against these industries? At the same time, these agencies have a special focus on helping small business. 25% of EXIM authorized money went to small businesses last year, exceeding its 20% requirement. Over the past 5 years, 75% of OPEC supported projects have involved a U.S. small or medium-sized business. Just last month, a former Export-Import Bank loan officer pled guilty to taking more than $78,000 in bribes for fast-tracking unqualified loan applications. OPIC has similar examples of fraud. This is a good sign that fraud is identified and perpetrators are punished, but there seems to me that more could be done to prevent fraud in the first place. So my hope is that this hearing can bring some clarity to this debate. The American companies just need a level playing field to compete. No one innovates as well as the U.S. From the iPhone to hydraulic fracturing, the United States is the world's leader in coming up with new ideas that create new jobs and a higher standard of living for everyone. For example, if you add up the 20 countries the United States has a trade agreement with, American manufacturers run a $50 billion trade surplus with them. That's what happens when we combine the strength of American spirit with a level playing field. American companies win. Before returning to the ranking member for his opening remarks, I'd like to submit to the record the testimonies in support of reauthorizing the Ex-Im Bank from the Nuclear Energy Institute, Texas Association of Business, Texas Association of Manufacturers, and over 300 businesses in Texas. Hearing no objection, all of these testimonials from these 300 different groups in support of the Ex-Im Bank will be made part of the record. Now I'll turn to the ranking member, Mr. Keating, and the gentleman from Massachusetts may give his opening statement.